Hello.
Hello.
Laura joins me this month again. So
I'm back.
definitely. Episode 21.
Wow, that's crazy. 21 episodes. I can't believe people are still watching. Thank you for still watching.
Yeah. We've still got loads more topics to cover, so please do. But yeah, hello and welcome to the HSE Half Hour. Hopefully some of you know me by now. My name's Lauren. I'm the Head of Client Engagement at Executive Network Group. And myself, my colleague Laura, are going to be bringing you a half-hour live show every month on all things recruitment and safety. So over to you, Laura.
Yeah, so same as you. Hopefully everybody knows who I am by now. But yeah, I'm Laura Orcott. I'm Associate Director for HSE Recruitment and the parent company Executive Network Group. What that basically means is, HSE Recruitment, we're health and safety and environmental recruiters. Been going for sort of 20 odd years. I was recruiting day to day for about 14. Now, as Associate Director, my role is client facing, and basically I just get to go out and chat to loads of lovely safety people all the time, which is good. So yeah, going to conferences, going to events, going to awards, meeting up with our clients for coffees, just lots of talking, basically.
Yeah. Your ideal role.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and I work closely with Laura and the wider safety recruitment team. So myself and my team focus on researching, creating white papers on safety industry trends, lots of information and insight for our clients, basically. We wanted to share this with our wider LinkedIn network. So as always, this is an interactive and live session. So please pop your comments in the LinkedIn comment box. We'll get to them as soon as the conversation allows. So yeah, any and all questions are welcome. So as mentioned, Laura is back this month. She joins us on the back of an incredibly busy month. So last episode, I think it was, when I was joined by Craig, you were jet setting, you were in Europe.
Jet setting, yeah. It's not as glamorous as it sounds, because I think I pretty much should be inside of a hotel room for 2 days. But yeah, last month I was at the HSE European Congress, which was held in The Hague, which was a fantastic 2-day event. So we've been partnered with the HSE Congress guys for a year or so now, doing workshops and different bits and pieces with them. So yeah, jetted over there, 2-day conference, really focused around leadership. So kind of stepping away from the technical safety stuff and really focusing on that soft skills, the leadership soft skills, the strategy and all of that. So that was brilliant. Really good. Been doing loads this month as well. So you'll notice I'm a bit croaky today. That's because we took a table of clients to the Rossborough Awards on Tuesday night. And they had a fantastic band, so I have been singing quite loudly along. So that's where the voice has gone, so sorry about that. But yeah, I had the Rossborough Awards. Next week down at the RSM Awards, which should be really good. That's a week today. Yeah, next Thursday. So hopefully I'll see lots of people there as well. And we also had a roundtable last week, which is what we're here to talk about, aren't we? So
yeah, definitely. That leads us very nicely into today's topic. So the recent roundtable held in Birmingham, our hometown, and this was with legal specialist partners, Pince and Masons, in partnership with them. So this was all around wellbeing and ultimately whose responsibility is it in the workplace, of course. So tell us a little bit about that then, Laura. Tell us about, I know that you've partnered with Pince and Masons for different things such as a mock trial, but why is this topic important? Why did you choose to run this roundtable?
So a bit of background about the events and why we do this sort of stuff, because obviously we're a recruitment firm, that's the day-to-day job, but we put loads of these events on for our sort of senior leadership network, and basically about 7 years ago now, we noticed a bit of a gap in the market. We noticed that, look, there's loads of great events out there, loads of great conferences, but it's usually a mix of people at all levels, and there isn't much necessarily for heads of senior professionals to get together from different industries and share what they know, share that best practice and share that innovation and learn from each other. So that's what we wanted to do, was kind of connect those people. So inspiring people in inspiring settings around innovative topics was kind of the idea with the whole thing. So we set up that group, HSE Leaders Connect. So yeah, that's been going since 2016. really, really good. We've got about sort of 600 members so far that kind of come along to that. And as part of that, when we set that group up, we reached out to a number of partners in the industry that we thought could help us with content, help us with ideas, help us really get the right message across to people so that we're actually adding benefit to people's careers. So Pinson Masons were one of those partners. So yeah, being partnered with them for years and years and years now. As you said, we do lots of things like mock trials with them, but we also run these sorts of roundtables. And what we try and do is lean on their legal expertise. So anything where we think, okay, they've really got the inside track here. They've got some legislation knowledge that we can kind of share. And then we use that along with then a discussion around sort of the softer skills side of it to make it a really interactive event. So that's the background to we do this sort of stuff. We just want to give back to the industry and help people progress in their careers. Wellbeing, obviously, an absolutely huge topic. It's something we are seeing more and more of, and we have a sister company called Network HR who does what it says on the tin. They recruit HR professionals, and they're seeing it as well. They're seeing this huge rise in wellbeing, kind of being tacked onto roles. So HR professionals are having wellbeing under their remit. Safety people are having it tacked on and put under their remit, and that's great. We absolutely need to be thinking about wellbeing. We need to be figuring out how to help people. I love that we're really, really open about mental health and that sort of thing now. But it's a lot to put on one person's shoulders, right? Particularly in health and safety, because I'm sure loads of people watching will know, in health and safety, you do kind of get given lots of extra things. You start off with health and safety, and then they're like, okay, well then you can obviously have the systems as well, and then you can have the environmental. Oh, and now environmental, that's going into sustainability. Have a bit of that as well. Have a bit of well-being. So it's just, is it sustainable? Is it the right way to do things? Who should really be looking after this? Does it sit just with HR? Does it sit with health and safety? So that was kind of the idea. So what we wanted to do with this roundtable was utilise the legal expertise of Pinson Masons from a legislation point of view. What does the legislation say? Have there been prosecutions? How is this being actioned when it goes wrong? And also then connect with the sister company, Network HR, and get those HR people in the room along with the safety directors. So, I said on the day so they could duke it out. No actual fisticuffs.
No, I was going to say that surely brought up some controversial discussion points, I'm sure.
But that was kind of the idea. We wanted to see it from both sides. And really get a good understanding. So that's what we did. So we had 15 of us around the table, a pretty much even 50-50 mix of safety directors and HR directors, all of whom had responsibility in some way for wellbeing within their roles. So that's what we did. We got them all in. We got them all discussing it, trying to figure out, is there one right answer to this? And if not, what can we do to kind of help each other? That was the idea of the event.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the topic of wellbeing is hugely important. It's been a conversation that's been had for such a long time, but one that maybe hasn't drawn to a positive conclusion as yet. But I think we've chosen this, especially this week. It's Mental Health Awareness Week is upon us at the moment. Again, what a time to talk about this. So where do you think, Laura, the responsibility should lie, the primary responsibility for employee wellbeing in an organisation structure? I always ask you these big questions.
You really do. We've only got half an hour.
Where does this lie? Whose responsibility is it? And how can this be effectively integrated, into all the other tasks that everyone's currently doing?
Okay, massive question. And I think the truth of it is, I don't think there is one right answer for everybody. Everyone's organisation is a little different. And that's what kind of came out of the roundtable is we had huge, like FTSE 250 companies around the table, and then we had small SMEs, and they've all got very different approaches, and they've all got different budgets and different concerns and things like that. So that I don't think there's one straight answer. The main thing, though, that did come out, and I loved that everyone agreed with this, the HR side, the safety side, they all agreed, is that the responsibility for well-being within an organization is kind of on everybody. It shouldn't just be on one person. However, the accountability for it absolutely needs to sit with the senior management. So that was the feeling, is that the MD, the directors, the board, they're the people with the ultimate accountability. Now, this just does delve into a slightly larger conversation. So when we were at HSE Congress in Europe the other week, they did an Oxford-style debate about this, about whether companies actually have any responsibility for their employees' well-being at all.
That's interesting, really interesting.
It's really interesting, and obviously a much bigger conversation. But some interesting points came out of that, where people were saying, well, look, does a company have that ultimate responsibility? The employees are grown adults, is it our role to tell them to eat better, to exercise, so that's a much bigger conversation. I think ultimately we agreed that there is some responsibility on the companies, particularly where you've got, for example, sales companies where the guys are maybe doing 60, 70-hour weeks, and they don't necessarily have the time to look after themselves the way they should. Or you've got a distribution company and you've got long-haul truckers, and there absolutely has to be some sort of responsibility. But yeah, it's I suppose, depending on the company, there are levels of how much responsibility. But overarchingly, don't put it on anyone's shoulders. I don't think it should just be HR. I don't think it should just be safety, but the accountability has to kind of come from the top. That was the main takeaway, obviously.
I think that was really important, and the fact that you had that debate at Congress, that's really interesting, because I see a lot on LinkedIn, people, two arguments saying, this could be a tick box exercise, and companies are just doing lip service or doing the very bare minimum, and then others are saying, well, do they have to do anything?
But doing anything
ultimately,
at all.
I mean, I haven't got the stats, and I should probably have them now, but a happy and well looked after workforce, of course, leads to better productivity, better staff retention, better attraction. So all of those boxes, of course, are going to make the argument for look after your staff, not just from a moral sense of we've got a responsibility for people, but from a commercial sense as well. So I think that leads me on to my next question, Laura, about mental health first aiders. People that are trained, not just safety, anyone in the business. A lot of companies, from what I've seen, are training people up to go, look, we do need to look after our staff. We'll train people, we'll send them on these courses. They're now mental health first aiders. They're in charge of well-being. What do you think of that, of those people having responsibility?
This actually came up in the roundtable as well. So look, mental health first aiders are great. I absolutely do believe they have a place within well-being. We have them within our own company, that we have people that are trained up as mental health first aiders. So they absolutely have a place. The danger, I think, with mental health first aiders is a company's over-reliance on them. So like you said, I think sometimes you'll have some companies that will train people up and then they think, well, job done. There's people within the company that now are looking after it. That's kind of all I need to do. And a mental health first aider isn't there necessary to be a counsellor for someone or to fix the problems. They're there to identify that there's problems and to kind of point people in the right direction. So whether that's then directing them towards a company's EPA or something similar to that, that's what they're there for. And what came up during that roundtable is a lot of people felt there was maybe an over-reliance on them within companies, and that people did then tend to see it as more of a tick box, that, okay, well, tick, we've got our mental health first aiders, people have got someone to talk to, that's all we need to do. It's just a much bigger conversation than that. Again, to come back to whether a company has any responsibility at all in the first place, I think you've got to look at people, for example, that are away from home a lot of the time. They may be away from their family, staying in hotels. They might not be able to eat healthy meals because they're on the road. They're having McDonald's every day. They have some responsibility to that, and just putting a mental health first aider in that person can then talk to when they're struggling is just not going far enough, is it?
Definitely. I agree. I think there's got to be a wider initiative that's, taken from the top. We talk about top down and implemented by them. So it isn't just on one person. And that kind of leads me into what we're doing at the moment. So as mentioned in my intro, as always, I'm always creating white papers. I'm looking at different research,
Always
helping
busy.
events, etc. So love a bit of data. And at the moment, I'm running a survey around this topic, around wellbeing, around mental health, and how it's impacting safety professionals at work. So we're compiling this report. It's called the mental health impact, and it's what's been interesting to me is the majority. So this has just been sent to safety professionals, all levels, from your coordinators right through to VP, global directors. What's interested me is the fact that most of them feel that well-being shouldn't be a safety responsibility. They're happy to help, but they do feel like this shouldn't be a safety job. This should be, someone else's accountability. And a lot of them suggested line managers, senior management. And with this stat, nearly 3/4 of them have said, they don't feel like they should be doing it, but their jobs have changed. So they haven't had any particular tailored training, but their jobs have changed to encompass well-being. That's quite a lot, 72%. What do you think of that stat then, Laura?
It's weird because I was both shocked and not shocked by it. I was shocked it is a high number. For 3/4 of people say this is not my role. That is a really, really high number. But also not shocked because I've had these conversations with people, and a lot of people are saying this. Obviously they have an interest in well-being. Obviously they want people to be safe, but a lot of safety professionals I'm talking to just feel like it's another thing that's been added onto them. And ultimately we kind of have to think of their well-being as well, in that if we just keep lumping things onto the safety professional, so here's health, here's safety, here's occupational health, here's well-being, here's environmental, that's going to have a detrimental impact on them, and it's not going to help the people that really need it. So it's a very interesting stat. I'm looking forward to reading the report because I know people have given us a lot of comments, haven't they, on why they think that, and sort of suggestions and that sort of route. I think this really ties back to what came out of the roundtable, which is there needs to be some shared responsibility for this. Putting it on one person, putting it on the HR director or putting it on the safety director probably isn't the right approach moving forward. Even stuff like the sharing of data, that was something that came up. If you just have it on the HR person or you just have it on the safety person, both sides are probably missing some critical data that they need to be able to help people. So, HR may have the stats on, who's been off sick and for what reasons, and the safety guys aren't seeing that. The safety guys may have information on, workplace ill health and musculoskeletal disorders and all that sort of stuff, and maybe these things aren't going both ways. Interesting stat. Don't necessarily disagree with it, but it's just such a tricky question, isn't it?
It is, and it's quite a loaded question, I get. You mentioned data there, and we have had a comment from Jeff, so thank you for your comment, Jeff, who mentioned, going back to mental health first aiders, they should be perhaps aware of their limits, because of course someone's trained in this, they most likely feel very passionate about helping and really trying to push what they've learned. But he mentions as an example here, in a previous company, one of the HSE managers was given, they were giving out consultations like a psychiatric sort of thing, saving reports on a shared drive, and this was all after, so it's also got to be extremely confidential. So you mentioned data there from a good point, from a business point of view, and how visibility of data in the way of absences and that sort of stuff can help identify problems. But actually, if someone's coming to someone with a very private issue, that needs to be really well processed. So I think it's a really good point as well.
Two really good points there from Jeff on both sides. I agree with both, and this is kind of the problem sometimes with the mental health first aiders is, like I said, it's a great idea, it's good to have them, but people then kind of see it as, well, that's person's job, they're trained for it, I don't have to do anything else. And that person, like you said, is someone, if they volunteered to be a mental health first aider, who probably really wants to help people, and they are going to try and help, and that's actually not their job. They're not meant to be solving these problems. They're not meant to be taking on board, everybody's issues and maybe affecting their own emotional well-being and potentially giving out damaging advice. That's not what they're there for. And then the other point again about the data again came up in the roundtable. That shared data is really, really important, but there are certain things that we have to be careful about. So there may be instances where HR have got access to information as to why someone is off sick or what the problem is, and that needs to be treated very, very carefully. So I think there's just a lot of eggshells to tread on with this topic, which is probably why nobody has figured out exactly where it should sit in a company yet, and nobody has figured out an exact qualification necessarily for it. I know there is something coming in terms of safety systems for it, but it's just also new, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And there's so much to get through. It's a very nuanced topic. So I appreciate, from the event, we've mentioned the roundtable. It went very well. If people want to see the takeaways from that, I know that we've got a bit of a reel which shows the highlights. But Laura, can you share with anyone watching today, some of the points that you took away from the session and what, I know that there wasn't one key process and go, we figured it out from this roundtable, but what were the takeaways?
Unfortunately, we didn't have a definitive, by the way, this is the answer for you, but we always try and take away something from it. The whole point of these roundtables, like we said, is sharing with other people in the similar industry and other people with a similar role and trying to learn from each other. So we came away with kind of 6 key areas that we thought were important to consider moving forward when we're looking at well-being. So the first one was the one we've kind of already mentioned, the fact that the responsibility needs to be shared. However, the accountability needs to sit with senior leadership. Everybody around the table was very, very keen on the point that this needs to come from the top. And that's where the accountability needs to lie, but that, it shouldn't necessarily be then just one person's responsibility to action or look after everyone from there on. One of the things that came out that they all thought would be really, really useful was actually creating committees for this that bring in people from different departments. So rather than having it just sit under safety or just have it sitting under HR, is okay, well, let's get HR and safety around the table. Let's bring other functions in as well. So, for example, there may be an argument to get someone from IT involved because, say, you've got real problem with your IT systems and that's stressing people out. Let's get them in the conversation. Let's get line managers in who maybe are putting pressure on people to work outside of their working hours. Let's get them in on the conversation. So again, it's a similar point in sharing that responsibility, but I thought a good action point to, let's do a joint committee and get everyone. Let's get everyone.
I like that. And I think when you get that conversation started, it's about putting measurements in place, and what gets measured gets done, let's be honest. So I think that's
absolutely. Well, that led on really nicely to one of the other takeaways that I thought was really, really important, is that measurable side of it. Well-being has kind of had that reputation maybe for being a bit pink and fluffy previously. So one of the things that came out of this roundtable is that we believe that all of these initiatives, all these things we're putting in place, they need to link back to very specific data-driven health outcomes, rather than just a generalized feel or some anecdotal evidence. So, for example, if you're putting, as we have, Thrive initiatives in where we get everybody out of the office for the day, and we did things like we took them to the big Birmingham Bake Off, we got them all cooking for the day. We've taken them on walks. We're doing the Snowdon track and things like that. These are all great initiatives, but what is the actually data-driven health outcomes of these? So very important to look at measuring it. So let's get surveys out beforehand. Let's get surveys out after. Let's see how people are responding to these things. Let's see if it's making a difference. Same with, changing anything within the workplace. We've had conversations previously about, okay, well, to help well-being, maybe we should take everybody's emails off their phones in the evening. And actually, when we went and looked at the data from our company said that people would feel more stressed if they didn't have access to that. If they weren't able to check, if they weren't able to put their mind at rest. So it's making sure that everything is linked back to the data and linked back to ideally those health outcomes, those health and well-being outcomes. So I thought that was a really, really interesting point. A lot of things came around about just making sure that communication was open. So there's a real open dialogue around this, around the strategy, around the goals. Again, just same as we used to say in health and safety, right? Safety people used to silo themselves and we've broken those walls down, and now we're talking, we're sharing best practice, and that's making the industry better. Well, let's do this cross-functionally as well. Break the walls down between HR, IT, finance, whatever it is, and get that open dialogue around the strategy so we're all going in the same direction. And then look at, once we've broken those walls down, okay, so what data can we share? What can we all talk about? What can we help the other departments with? So just basically the whole message is, let's all help each other rather than putting it on the sector director or the HR director and leaving them to it. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, I think that kind of brings us very nicely, very well articulated, Laura, as if I tripped over that word of all of them, to the end, really. So we, as mentioned, it's a massive topic. We have got this survey that's live at the moment, and I appreciate all and any comments. It's completely anonymous. As I say, the data's collected in aggregate, and we will be releasing and publishing this report in the coming weeks. So we've got a lot to get through.
Are you going to put the link in the comments for everyone?
Yes. Yeah. So link will be in the comments for you to get involved. It shouldn't take more than about 4 minutes. A lot of it's multiple choice, but you have, of course, got some free text options there to voice your opinion. And it's great to see, the different data from different sectors and different levels and how they view this and their perception. So yeah, that would be great if anyone wants to get involved in that. The link will be in the comments there. So next month Laura joins me again, and we do have a special guest. So Laura, if you want to introduce what we're doing next month.
So yeah, hopefully next month we are going to be talking about some training that we've been doing with a partner, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. You'll have to tune in and find
that is suspense. Yeah, it should be a great.
One of the things I did want to mention before we go, though, obviously we've talked a lot about this networking group that we're doing, that's been going for a number of years. It is for senior professionals, so it's aimed at sort of senior managers, head of, director level, but we do virtual and in-person events, roundtable seminars. Sometimes we just do wine tasting and a bit of chatting. So if there are any senior professionals that aren't currently involved that would like to get involved, then please do just drop me a message on LinkedIn or via email, and we can have a chat about getting you involved in some future events.
Yeah, definitely. And we've mentioned events, of course. It's been the inspiration for our topic today, but we have got very much a packed health and safety events calendar. If you want to have sight of that and get involved in what's coming up over the coming months, then please do reach out to Laura, or you can drop me a message. But yeah, Laura's your lady for that. So thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to our special guest next month. And yeah, please do get involved in the survey if you can, and the link will be in the comments.
Perfect. See you next month.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.